thank you so much for viewing the Teaching Excellence Award ePortfolio video. My name is Dr. Anthony Nicella, and I'm in the Department of Criminal Justice. And I'm also the chair of the Faculty Development, Advancement, and Research Subcommittee at Faculty Senate. This video is here to share some information and knowledge about how to develop the Teaching Excellence ePortfolio webpage on your own personal web portfolio. And with us, we have Emily Dibble, the coordinator of ePortfolio at Salt Lake Community College, telling us a little information about how to develop it. And then I'll be asking her some questions that probably all the faculty will be asking. The Teaching Excellence Award is an annual award given to 2 full-time faculty and 1 part-time faculty a year and determined by the Salt Lake Community College Foundational Board and is always due approximately around February. So stay tuned and please view this video.
Okay, to start off, I'm going to just take you through the proper template to use, and then I'll walk you through that template, and then Dr. Nicella can make some comments or give further explanation on parts that you might want to know some more about, or that we have commonly asked questions. So let me just share my screen really quickly here. So what I'm sharing with you is the adjunct template that we've created for adjunct faculty. Full-time faculty, if you're a full-time faculty member, you most likely have already created your professional portfolio for your rank and tenure process. And so in that case, you'll just go right into your regular portfolio that you would use each year for that review process. If you're an adjunct, I'll just go back a bit maybe. And once you get into digication, and maybe I should back up one step beyond that. And let me just show you quickly how to get in there. So you can get into digication by a couple different ways. One of the easiest ways I think is through Canvas. So if you're logged into Canvas, I'll just show you on mine. Do my duo here. Once you're logged in, you'll be on your dashboard page. And once you get to the dashboard page on the left side, you'll see the different icons. And you want to click on that question mark icon at the very bottom. Once you've clicked on that, it will show these different resources that come up. And the panda bear with the map, if you see that, you're on the right track. So you're going to scroll down to almost the bottom, and somewhere like second to bottom or third to bottom, depending on your computer, it will say Digication ePortfolio login. So Canvas and Digication are single sign-in, meaning same username, same password. So if you're signed into Canvas and you click on this link, it should take you right into your Digication dashboard. If you're going in for the first time, it will typically have a terms and conditions that you'll just need to acknowledge. So once I get into this dashboard, if I've created portfolios before, which I have, you'll see them showing up here. If you haven't created one before, you're going to want to go to something that says My ePortfolios. It will have a slightly different look, but it's still pretty similar. It says My ePortfolios, and then there's a blue plus button across from that. So you'll click on that, and then this will bring up all the different template possibilities here. So if you're an adjunct doing this for the first time, you can do one of two things. If you want to go ahead and create an adjunct portfolio that you want to add to and use to document your teaching and other things over the course of your years at the college, you can go ahead and add or create an adjunct faculty portfolio using this template. If you would rather just do a standalone teaching excellence one, that is fine too. And if you want to just do the standalone one, you can scroll down until you see the one that says Faculty Teaching Excellence Template. And then you'll just select that one. Okay. So what I'm going to do though is I'm actually going to show you what this looks like when you've already created a portfolio. Okay, so I made a sample one earlier for you. So let's pretend that you've already created your adjunct portfolio using the template, and you just have a welcome, teaching, professional activity service, and then a CV. This is pretty similar to what full-time faculty use as well. And then you can update it annually or however often you want to as an adjunct. So once you have this, The cool thing about having multiple templates is that you can actually add a template into an existing one. And so if you're doing the standalone teaching excellence template, you don't need to worry about doing this. If you're adding it to your existing full-time faculty one or adding this to an adjunct one, you're going to come to the bottom right corner and click on the blue plus button. This is where you go to add new content. So when I click on the blue plus button, again, it gives me options of things I can add on. And in this case, I want to add on a template. So I can look up here, and fortunately, this is already here in one of the featured templates. If it's not, you can always scroll through here to look at more templates, or you can click on view all, and you'll then go through that. But I'm going to go ahead and click on teaching excellence. And if I scroll down slightly, I want to use this template. So I click on use this template. And I'm just confirming those are correct settings. So just save settings and add. And now what you'll notice is it comes in and just adds it right up here in my page menu. So now I have a section for my teaching excellence application. And it will do the exact same thing if you're a full-time faculty, and it will just pop it right into your existing portfolio. And I think if you're a full-time faculty, it's nice to put this into your existing one instead of doing a standalone, because I think this says a lot about the caliber of teaching you're doing to be nominated for this award. So I think that's something you would want to show off. So let's take a look at the template now that we have it in here. So on the front page, we have just a note to you as faculty, congratulating you on being nominated. And it also just has a bit of an outline of the process that you will be asked to go through and the basic pages and information you'll need to provide, and then talks about the URL and how you'll need to submit that as well. And as Dr. Nocella mentioned, the deadline is typically in February. So I know this year it's mid-February. Then if you hover over teaching excellence application, you'll notice that there are several drop-down pages. So we'll just take a look at each one of these briefly and go over this. And again, this is where Dr. Nocella can jump in. So the first page we have here is basically going over your teaching pedagogy or your teaching philosophy. And if you're full-time faculty, you've already done this. And you can find this under your, you'll have a professional statement, just like adjuncts do up here. You'll have one of these as full-time as well. And so chances are, if you've already done your professional statement, you've already done your teaching philosophy. So you can actually, if you're full-time, you can actually go in there and copy paste it in, or I will show you maybe another trick in just a minute that you can do to organize your content. So we went through and tried to give a pretty descriptive overview for you of what to include here and what are some ideas you could be thinking about. So in this section, you want to be thinking about what your responsibilities are, you know, what courses are you teaching, what do you teach on a regular basis? Are there classes that come in every so often that you teach in addition to those? Your teaching philosophy you want to include in there. And again, we have that broken down to different prompts and things you can consider. Your objectives and your methodologies. So again, we've got a lot of good prompts in here. Tiffany Rauskopf was really helpful in helping create, design those as well. So as you're going along and creating this philosophy and talking about your pedagogy and how you teach, you'll also want to be putting in links to either evidence or references. And again, I can show you how to do those. We'll review the pages quickly and then I'll show you a few techniques.
And then I can just kind of chime in.
Mm-hmm.
So people get an understanding. Don't put your curriculum and like your practices on this page. There's another page for that. So what we're thinking about pedagogy, some professors have never heard the term, and it's just the philosophy of why you teach. And that's what pedagogy means. So there's a lot of different types of pedagogies. There's disability pedagogy, critical pedagogy, transformative pedagogy, community pedagogy, feminist pedagogy, critical race pedagogy, etc. And these ideas of pedagogy are just saying, why do you teach in such a way? Like, what is the purpose and mission of why you teach? And why do you use group building activities? Do you believe in community empowerment? Why do you believe in storytelling? Is it because experience is very important to you? And if you do Google searches and you go to the library, you'll find out what pedagogies really resonate and connect with you. And so then you can articulate like your pedagogy and your overall philosophy and mission of why you teach in such a way. We're not talking about your specific daily activities, which would be actually teaching practices. For example, breaking people up into groups. That's not a pedagogy, but that's more of a practice. So your practices are kind of like your tactic, and your pedagogy is your strategy. So tactics are built on uh, um, multiple amounts of tactics build a strategy if we were thinking tactic strategy philosophy. So thank you so much for your time. Emily, right back at you.
Great, thank you. All right, so this next section is what he was just talking about, your teaching practices section. And so again, we've put some notes on here about some possibilities and some prompts to help you start thinking about your teaching practices. And so again, I'll let you go over and look at these, just so you know, you can leave these notes in while you're working on it, and then you go ahead afterwards and delete these notes out. So in this area, and again, if you're full-time faculty, you're already very familiar with these sections and you've got them already in your portfolio. But you're thinking about things like instructional delivery, your design and assessment, how you're applying your knowledge to your teaching, and then the way you manage your course. And again, each of these sections has specific prompts and ideas that will give you some examples of how you can approach this.
And some just examples of people watching films and watching clips on YouTube. That is a practice. Doing pre-assessment and post-assessment, that is another practice. Inviting guest speakers from an industry or the community, that's another practice. Using technology like online teaching or broadcast teaching, that's another type of practice. Having your students write essays or poems or bring in a poster, midterm finals, quizzes, tests, all these are forms of practices. But going back to pedagogy is, why do you do these things, right? The reason why, the foundational of why you do all these kind of practices. At the beginning of the class, I bring in a ball and I pass it around to introduce people. And then I do a name game. And you have to say a positive adjective that begins with the same initial of your name. So I'd be Awesome Anthony. These are practices. So think of all the wonderful things that you do in your class on a daily basis throughout your course. Those are the practices that you want to promote on this page.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so going on to the next page, we have our teaching goals. And again, this just has a short section here, short prompt, but these are things you want to think about, goals you set, maybe goals that you set and already accomplished. You can also look at goals that you set that you're working towards, or maybe there's things that you've realized recently you'd like to change up or even do better in the future. So, and then the other thing to keep in mind with these are, how have these goals helped you specifically, again, with your teaching? And how have you seen improvement or increased student engagement, or any of those things happening with the goals that you set and those that you've achieved?
And then just to kind of note, when you first think of teaching goals, you think of, well, I want my students to be good citizens in the world. These goals are for me and the professor. The philosophy and the pedagogy is kind of, I want my students to be great citizens, peaceful and promoting justice and loving thy neighbor. Those are like the pedagogy. Teaching goals are, I really want to encompass more media and films into my class, but I don't know how to do it. I kind of fumble. So that would be a teaching goal. Another would be, I want to use ePortfolio more in my classes as like a midterm or a final. Rather than doing a quiz, I want them to post something on ePortfolio. Or another quiz or another teaching goal is, I want my students for 3 hours in my whole semester to volunteer at a soup kitchen. And that might be another teaching goal. Or another is, I want my students to present at a conference or publish in a journal. So these are some teaching goals, okay? Just to give you some concrete examples.
Okay, great. The last section we have here is your evidence of quality teaching. And you'll notice that there's a little arrow next to it showing that there are 3 other subsections for this. So there are 3 areas that we want you to take a look at: your curricular development, your teaching evaluations, and your letter of support. So we'll look at each of these separately. So the first one is your curricular development. And again, this is showing any changes maybe you've made in your curriculum over the years, anything you've done, changes in your pedagogy, different practices you've talked about, like Dr. Noshella was talking about. Maybe you decided to incorporate more media or the portfolio more. Maybe you ended up having to do a hybrid course or more broadcast teaching, and you're learning all these new skills with that as well. But talk about how you've worked on curricular development.
I would just like to include on this curricular development, you can also note, and in that drop down, it says supportive letters, right? And we'll get to that in a second. But in curricular development, you can say, I tried videos, but it didn't work. And then you can kind of note how it didn't work and then how you changed it, later. That I remember the first time I showed videos and I just showed the video, just like the 2-hour movie, in a few classes. But then I said, well, what I'm going to do is write on the dry erase board like 6 questions, like 6 prompt questions that they've got to answer while looking at this video. So you don't have to be the best teacher right off the bat. It takes many, many years, including myself. And so the best idea is going back and forth and showing in this kind of page how you've changed your curriculum because of the feedback from students, the feedback of faculty, the feedback of administrators, and the feedback of just your colleagues around you.
Great, thank you. Okay, good. So the next one we're doing is teaching evaluations. So if we click on teaching evaluations, again, this is where you want to include student evaluations, as well as perhaps evaluations by colleagues. And I know both adjuncts and full-time have observations from colleagues who come in and watch you teach. This would be a great place to include those. And then, yeah, your student evaluations, I know they just announced fairly recently that they've revamped that a little bit. So you can actually go in there and you can download those from the different semesters. And that's easy enough to upload in here as well. And again, in a few minutes, I'll show you some more of the technical things that you can do for this.
And I just want to kind of note, teaching evaluations, don't get beat up on them. It's about sometimes feedback, but we also know evaluations sometimes come from the extremes on both sides. So if a student, and I say it, I'm now just asking my students if they like something about the class, I'm like, oh, could you send me an email on that so I could send that on to my associate dean, right? Like a lot of times in our society, sad to say, we like to give negative feedback than positive feedback. But hopefully at Salt Lake Community College, we don't do that. We like to support each other and uplift each other. And so if you do, get some feedback that you don't like, it doesn't mean that you have to change. But you might want to look at it from a critical perspective. Sometimes you want, if a student says, well, this professor gives too much writing assignments and your whole goal is writing assignments. Well, you might not want to change that, right? But you might want to, at the beginning of the semester, inform the students that there's a lot of writing assignments so they're more aware of it. But it doesn't mean that you've got to change your assignments or your curriculum. Just be more aware of the feedback. And sometimes that feedback is something that you already know and that you don't want to change because of who and what your pedagogy is.
Okay, great. Moving on to the very last page, it's your letters of support page. All right, so this is where you want to include any letters that you've received. This could be from, again, colleagues, fellow faculty, people who've observed you or not. This could also be from administrators, your associate dean. This could be from staff you've worked with, right? Oftentimes I know faculty do a lot of collaboration around the college, and maybe you've worked with different areas or departments and you have staff who've worked with you and are supporting you on this. And you can also include letters of support from students. This might be an email that they sent to you, just telling you thank you for a great class, or maybe listing a specific practice that they enjoyed. Any other comments?
All I would say is make sure you get the students or whoever sent you their approval. You don't always have to add their last name, just out of a little bit of privacy. And I wouldn't add their email, but you would like to add their date. So if it's like January 26, 2021, add that. Don't have to add their last name, but just make sure to keep the original document somewhere private. So if someone does ask for it. The Salt Lake Community College Board Foundation asked for it, then you have it. But this is just more the visual. And then you might even want to break them up in different colors or lines or spacing, so it doesn't look like a run-on. So you want to kind of break each of the supportive letters up some way. And what I do on my ePortfolio is I just have a line between each of them.
Great tips. Thank you. All right, so that's basically it for the application. I do want to take just a few minutes and show you how to do a few of these technical things right in the portfolio and how you could add some of this documentation. So maybe we'll just start off with the letters of support page since we're already on here, and I'll use this as an example of a way that you can put your letters of support in. So the first thing to remember with this is that in order to make changes, you have to edit. So when I come in here, you can see these little areas that have the white circles and the dotted lines. This is called a module. Every module has corresponding icons to the right side. The trash can, if I click on this one, starting at the bottom here, it will delete the entire module. So just be aware of that, everything in here, not just the text, but the whole module will go away. And if I click on this, you can see it wants you to be very intentional about it. So I actually have to type the word delete and then type yes, delete it in order to get rid of it. So hopefully you're thinking this through before you actually click that button. I'm going to cancel that because I want to keep it. This next one is your move module, your move icon. If I click on this, I can drag my module around and move it. I can also make it smaller by dragging on these corners. This here is my settings icon. This will pull up where you can change things like centering, justifications. You can change your font colors. Again, I wouldn't get too wild and crazy with this, but just some things you can do. I can also change font if I really am not loving the font that's already there. So the top one is the most important one, and that's the edit button. So when I click on this edit button, I can either click here, or if you want a shortcut, I can actually just double click right inside of this here. They both do the same thing, but it brings up this little black toolbar up here, which lets me know I can now go in and make these changes. So a couple of things to be aware of. Again, this is very much like you would use in Canvas or maybe even a Word document, some similarities with that. The two tools you're going to use the most with this are probably going to be the paperclip and the little chain link icon. And I'll explain the difference on these really quickly. The paper clip is when you're attaching a document. And this could be any type of a document. This could be a Word document, PDF, PowerPoint, any sort of JPEG. They all have some sort of a file name. This part right here is if you're using anything that has a web address. So if you wanted to link a URL. And I'll show you how this is done. So for example, let's say that I want to do a letter of support from my AD. And again, you can do this totally differently. But you want to probably, if you're doing it this way, you want to write what it is that you're attaching. And then you want to come in and highlight it. And if I'm attaching an actual letter, maybe it's a Word document or a PDF, I'm going to highlight that. And then I'm going to click on the paper clip. Once I click on that, I can go ahead and upload the file. And I can go in there and find my file type. I can click on select files to upload, or I can drag it in off my desktop. And then it will give me opportunity to upload it. I'll just give you a quick example here. I can find one. My computer's being a little bit slow here. Okay, we'll use this. It popped up quickly. And then you can see once I put in this report for assessment, I can upload it. And then I'll give it just a few minutes. And once it uploads it, you'll notice it turns into a blue link. So now this turns into a blue link. My viewers can click on this and they can see the letter of support from my associate dean. Let's say, for example, I wanted to include a website in here somewhere else. Okay, again, I can either type in what it is, or I could come up with something that's already highlighted in a paragraph I've written. I can go ahead and highlight a word in my paragraph. Okay, but again, I'm going to highlight this. This time, if it has a URL, I'm going to click on the little chain link. I'm going to paste the URL right in here, and then click on the checkbox, and that will attach the URL to this. So That's the basics of linking. There are other ways to put in letters of support as well. If you want them actually in there visually, you can do that too.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
If somebody wanted, and I know this because I had an AD, a wonderful person, say, "Hey, you told me that this information's on your ePortfolio," and I was like, "Yes, it is." And they're like, "Oh," and then what I found was I never published it. So after you save things, make sure to publish every single page, because each page needs to be published. So if you fixed 5 pages on your ePortfolio, you have to update each of those pages, which is at the very top. If somebody wants to make a like a bullet point, like a sub dot in, like under note faculty, please include. How do you make a bullet point? Can you make a bullet point, a number point? And then the other question I have, can you put an image in this kind of text box? Is that possible? And how do you do that? Like if somebody wanted to kind of put a smiley face or a picture of a logo of Salt Lake Community College near each of their links.
Yes, great questions. Okay. So first of all, I'll show you how to do the bullet points. So again, if I'm in here and I'm going to edit, you'll notice that there's an opportunity up here to do bullet points, or here I could do numbers. And so if I click on please include the following, I can click bullet point next to that and it will add that in. And then if I hit return, it'll continue to put bullet points in. If I decided I wanted to do like a number instead, again, I can come over here and start with 1, 2, 3, etc. So that's how you do that. And yes, you made a great point. Remember to publish your changes because it will save automatically. So you don't have to worry about saving it. So that's the good thing. But as Dr. Nocella mentioned, if you're not publishing it, there is no way that people can see what you've changed.
I have another question on that, Emily. So the people that are going to be viewing the Teaching Excellence Awards for all of our amazing nominees, their portfolio has to be public. So because a lot of the foundational members are not faculty, staff, they're not employees of Salt Lake Community College. So we'll be sending it, a mass email of your ePortfolios to them. And so make sure that your ePortfolio, as well as your Teaching Excellence application web page, is public. And I don't know if you can show that later or whenever.
Yes. Yep, I can, as long as we're talking about it now, I'll just show it now. But if you go to this top right corner, we have what we call a sandwich menu. It has 3 little lines and then a little arrow. If you click on this, you can go to settings. Well, really quickly too, if you go to the top, you'll notice a couple different options of publishing. Publish this page means it will publish the page you're currently on. So you can publish pages that way too. If you do publish pages, plural, if I click on this, it will give me an option to publish every page in my portfolio, or to at least select which ones I do or don't want published. And then I can click publish and it will capture all the pages I've told it to publish.
And the reason, what I found, and I think you've told me, and a lot of other web experts have told me, is why wouldn't you want to publish something? Because if you're still drafting something up and you don't want the world to see it, so it's kind of a way to privatize it still. So if you're still writing your pedagogy and you don't want it to be public, you could just keep it and then log out. And then when it's done, nice, cleaned up, edited by your friends or your fellow colleague, then you hit publish.
Yes, exactly. Great explanation on that. So I'm going to go back up to the sandwich menu again. And then this time we're going to about halfway down to settings. And if you click on settings, this is where you have your default setting is private within the college. But as was mentioned, if this is going to be viewed by anyone outside of the college, you do need to make it public. And just so you know, you can change this setting. So you can make it public during this period of review. And then later on, if you decided you want to make it private in the college, you can go back and change this at any time. So if I come over to permissions and share, you can see my setting now is private within the college. But if I go over here to where it says edit, I can click on that and I can make it public. So once I make it public, it says that anyone can share, anyone can see it. And then I go ahead and just save my settings. So that's how you would save your settings to make it viewable by anybody in or outside the college. So to answer your other questions, you asked, I believe, if you could put an image in this area as well. And And the answer is yes and no. So you can't put an image directly inside an existing module, but you can put one next to it. You can block things out so that you can have images next to it. You just have to be pretty intentional about this. So for example, let's say I want to have an image on the next to this part over here. I can just create space for it. And so if there's gray area, it means there's space to put new content. But I'm probably going to want an image a little bit bigger than this. So I can come over here and move this. I'll just tuck this over here to the right. And then I can add an image here. I'm just going to do a quick random little bit of a screenshot here so I can show you a demonstration of this. But I come in here and I can add new content. Again, this blue plus button in the bottom right corner. I come into upload file. I can select this, or I can go straight to my desktop and find what I want. So if I go to my desktop, there's my screenshot right there, and go upload. And what this is going to do is it's going to put it at the bottom of the page. All your new content goes to the bottom, but I can move it in over to the side here. So here's my screenshot. And I'm just going to make this so it will fit over in this section here. And then I can move it up. And then if I hover and I see it says auto resize, it means it's cropped it. So I can click on this and it will, again, pull out the full view. And I could go on and add additional images in here, or I could make this a little bit smaller and this a little bit bigger. So you can rearrange things however you want, but you just need to block it off a little bit. Okay, and you need to be intentional. If you start to do this later, there's still ways to move things up. It's just easier if you're starting this with that mentality at the beginning and you're planning for it as you're going along. The other thing I was going to show you is how to put in a letter of support visibly so that people can actually just see the letter there instead of having to click on a link for it. Or you can put them in a gallery of letters. That's another possibility. So again, I would just come down to the bottom and do the add new content button here. And then I'm just going to upload a file. And then I'll go to, sorry, let me find something that might be good to put on here.
And as you're finding something, I can just note that Emily put up a rock, but for geology, that might be really great. Or if you are an electrician and you're focusing specifically on how to teach students how to wire a house or wire a building, you might want that image next to them. They say, well, you know, Bob is a great professor when it comes to wiring a house or a car. And you might just want to put an image of that. So the Salt Lake Community College Board Foundation understands what that person, that student, that staff, that faculty, administrator is talking about when they're praising your teaching.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, so as you saw, I just did what I did earlier. I just found my document and then I uploaded it. But since I didn't have it highlighted to a word and I wasn't using the paperclip icon, I just put it in as you would see it in a document viewer here. So now they could go in and they could look at this document. If we'd created this document on work study postings, okay, they could go in and see this and they could scroll through and read the letter. And you could go in and you could keep adding in letters this way, or another way I think is sometimes just as helpful is you can actually create a gallery where they can scroll through and look at the different letters. So the way you would do that is, again, you would just click up here on the edit icon for this module, and then we do add more items. So I can click on add more items, and then I'm just going to do previous uploads because I have some things in there I can just throw in. So we'll throw these in. Say I'm doing, let's say these are all letters. And then what I can do with these is I can now scroll through and I have my 3 letters in here. And I can do other options here. So if I want to change the order that they're in, or I can come up to my settings and I can maybe have it so there's thumbnails so that people can see that there's more than one letter there. I can decide if I want those on the side or on the top or on the bottom. And then it just makes people a little bit more aware that there's additional content in there. So I didn't save those, but If you've done that, I could have a little thumbnail showing up here so they could see that there are multiple letters scrolling through. Great. So I think those are really the basics that you need to know. You can also add more rich text boxes. That's what this is here. If you want to copy paste content or just type more content. So when I'm adding material here, I would just choose a rich text when I do this. You can also, take pictures. Like if you want to put a picture of yourself, you can take it directly from your computer. You could record video if you want to do like a little video introduction about your nomination. You could record a little video straight from your computer, plug it right in. So you have a lot of really good options here. You could do an audio file. So again, you can play around with this. I am available, so if you run into questions, feel free to contact me. You can email me, emily.dibble@slcc.edu, or you can call me at 801-957-3706. And then as Dr. Noshel mentioned, make sure that you publish your changes. And when you publish it for the first time, it's going to look like, just confirm your settings. And so you'll do that. Then every time you publish it after that, it's just essentially going to do a page refresh. And so you won't even really notice. You don't have to go through that confirmation every time. And then when you're sending your URL, just really quickly, I think you could do one of two things. You can either come up here in the hamburger menu and click on settings, and you can copy your URL right here. Make sure you get the blue part, okay? But you can grab it right here. That works just fine. Or the other thing you can do is you can click, so you have your edit mode and you have your published view. This is another good way to double check and make sure that you've published everything you want to. So if I click on published view, you'll notice the only thing that is showing is my letters of support page and as part of this application, because that's the only page I published. So then I would say, oh, you know what? I need to actually publish those other pages as well. So this is sort of your fail safe, and you can go back and double check this. But once you've got things ready to go, just switch it over to your published view. And then again, you can just copy, you just copy your URL right at the top of the page here. And you can use that one as well. So either the URL in your settings or the URL at the top of this page will work. All right. And let me show one other quick thing for full-time faculty that might be helpful. Again, this may not be as applicable for adjuncts, but if you're full-time watching this training and maybe you already have a lot of this content existing in different parts of your portfolio, one tip I was showing full-time faculty the other day is you can use the Organize tool. And that is on the top right corner again. Go back to that sandwich menu, click on that, and we're going to go to Organize. So if you go to Organize, we can pull content from a totally different portfolio, or we can just rearrange content within the same portfolio. So you can either choose your current ePortfolio that we're working on here, which we're going to want to do for this, if you're already putting it in your existing faculty one, or for some reason you want to put it from a different one, you can do that, but we'll pull from this one. So you can see that both portfolios, it's the same portfolio, have a side-by-side view now. And we can either add in things by content, or we can add in things by page. So let's say, for example, that I already had work on my teaching page, and maybe I'd already done things, or my professional statement page, I already have my teaching philosophy here. And I wanted to go over on this side and put my teaching philosophy over here, okay? I can actually just click on this and drag this whole section over here to your teaching excellence application page if I want to, and it will just put that content right at the bottom here. And then I can delete the instructions and this will stay here, okay? So you can go around and just move things by content, or if you actually want to duplicate an entire page, I can come up here to the top right. I could toggle over to page. And again, I can just drag, if I wanted to do my teaching page here, I can drag that right over here. It's going to put it at the bottom, and then I can roll this right up here into my teaching practices or wherever I think it would fit in my teaching excellence application. Okay, so that's just another way to organize content if you're doing this as a full-time faculty member. Any other questions or any other things you think you would like to know?
I think when you're done your ePortfolio, please send it to faculty development at slick.edu and not to me or to someone else. And then we'll collect them and then send them off specifically. And but thank you so much, Emily, for your time, your expertise. And we can be better as faculty and be more productive because we have experts like yourself here teaching us some really basic things to you, but really really complicated to many faculty. So thanks so much.
Not a problem. Again, if anyone needs help, please don't hesitate to contact.
All right.
Thank you.